what I've done is I've put 2 coats of the Elmer's clear glue that I was showing in the previous video. I put 2 undiluted coats on this wrap, and I wanted to show you for comparison, this is the thread with nothing on it. I've got this broken guide that I've wrapped onto this rod blank, and I just wanted to test out the clear Elmer's glue just to see how it does as a color preserver. And just for reference here, I've got this wrap that is done without anything on it. You can see it's almost a perfect match. In fact, I would even call it a perfect match between the 2 colors. So if this can maintain the exact thread color and the epoxy will go on without soaking into it, I'd say that this is a good candidate to use as a thread color preserver. I don't know if the ultraviolet light will cause it to yellow or change color or crack or anything like that. So I'm going to have to do some more testing as far as that goes. But if the epoxy does not soak into this thread, then I'm going to say this is something I want to experiment more with and try it in some different environments. Put it out in some sunlight for a month or so and just see what happens to it. So I don't know what it's going to do. I'm hoping, because it is such a good match, I'm hoping that this will work out, but it may not. I'm just using the Flex Coat Ultra for the epoxy. I'm going to mix this up here. White thread on a black blank is really, really tough to do. So I'm starting to see a little bit of bleed through of the blank showing up through the between the threads here. And you can see some more here. It's not enough that I'd call it a complete failure. I mean, it's doing a pretty good job. And if the colors I'm using, the black blank and the white thread, weren't so dissimilar, it would probably look a lot better. So I can't call this a total failure. I'd put it in the maybe category. I might come back and revisit using the clear Elmer's glue as a thread color preserver. I might look at that again sometime in the future. It might work okay for certain applications. Just say you had a blank and a thread color that were somewhat more similar, maybe a darker color with a darker color or a lighter color with a lighter color. It might work a lot better for you. And if you really, really, really wanted to make sure you preserve the true color of the thread, that might be your best bet. I do think when you have very dissimilar colors, it's going to cause you a little bit of a problem. Whereas I've used things like Mod Podge before, and I think the polyacrylic would do an excellent job if it was used full strength in a couple of coats. But if your main concern is preserving the true color, you can see that these 2 are just pretty much spot on as far as the color goes. And I can tell some difference between the colors using the other color preservers I tested in a previous video. And I will just put a link up here in the top right hand corner up here. If you'll click on that link, you can go check out that video about testing out some different materials to possibly use as color preservers. And as I mentioned in that video, I can't guarantee that any of these things will hold up under ultraviolet light and through flexing of the rod and things like that. I do know this Elmer's glue would probably be fine as far as flex goes, because when it dries, it is rubbery. It's very flexible and not brittle whatsoever. So it should be fine for something like that. But it could yellow or it could change colors in sunlight. I'm not sure what it will do in those circumstances. Again, this is not me recommending you use anything in particular. It's just me showing what I'm testing. For one thing, it's something handy for me to go back and look at because I tend to forget things sometimes. So It'd give me a good reference to go back and look at myself, and it might give you some ideas on things that you would like to try. And if you do experiment with any of these things that I've been showing you, please make sure to leave comments below and what your results were. That way other people could go through and look at it at some other point in time. It might be useful to somebody else. It is bleeding through a little bit, and I would not use this myself in this condition. I wouldn't call that good for my own personal use. But I still think there might be some situations where the Elmer's glue would work just fine. This just doesn't happen to be one of them. So I'm not totally pitching the idea of using it and trying it out. But I definitely think when you got two extremely dissimilar colors between your thread and your rod blank, it's probably going to be a no-go on the clear Elmer's glue. And I think that's enough to see exactly what it's going to do. The epoxy's been on there for a while now, and I can clearly see that there's some bleed through of the blank color. If you tried something like this before with white thread, unless you're buying color protected thread, you know that it's a very difficult thing to do and get it right, to get it coming out looking right. So I wouldn't call it just a total disaster or a failure or anything, but it's not exactly what I was looking for or hoping for out of it. So I wouldn't try it in this situation. I would possibly try it on more similar colors again at some point down the road. That's all I got for now. I just wanted to share that with y'all and see what it did. Again, I don't think it's a total fail. I just think it's not best suited for this type of a situation. I'll talk to y'all later.